you had seen Shirley Muldowney's run just prior to, she hazed the tires off the starting line. We're going to move over to the right about 18 inches and look for a little better spot. So actually, this is giving us a little better time to make sure we're going to make exactly the right move down there. And we'll be all right. We do this every other weekend, you know, so it's not a big problem.
Gary talked about the lane and the racing conditions on the track. Gary, do you ever think about the competition alongside of you?
Well, we race against each competitor a little different, and I have a game plan in my head here now how to when the light goes green, that our car is as ready as it is to race against Richard Thorpe. And we do that a little different against each different competitor. But we're racing against a lot of very great competitors, and so we know we have to make good runs after good runs after good runs. And that's the attitude the racing team tries to take.
Let's go to Steve Evans.
Gary Beck's performance edge has nothing to do with the race car itself. There's at least a dozen of them here, the twin to this machine. The secret is in the fuel system. After hours and hours on a flow bench simulator, Gary has come up with this maze of lines and valves that will put 2.5 gallons of nitromethane through this engine in 5 seconds. Now, they can't really just copy it, the competition, because they don't know how it works, and some of these lines and valves may be here just to keep them guessing, keep them confused. Now, all the horsepower in the world doesn't do you any good if it goes up in tire smoke. So part of Gary's secret is the clutch inside this explosion-proof bell housing. It allows the excess horsepower to go through the clutch and slippage instead of spinning the rear tires. We've removed the transmission so you can see this massive rear end, a bit of off-road technology here, a live axle rear end that has virtually eliminated the tire shake on this automobile. Now, tires, again, part of Beck's secret. He doesn't take any pair. They will go through hundreds of tires to find just exactly the right size, the right width, and that, coupled with some special width wheels, contribute to this secret. The remainder of it is the man himself. Very few drivers would be capable of operating this car. There are so many bells and whistles and things to do on the way down the racetrack.
Steve, a great look at the inner workings of this man's car. This is Gary Beck, the new Winston World Champion in Top Fuel Eliminator.
And his opponent here in the second round, Richard Thorpe, basked in the glory of the World Championship back in 1976 at the wheel of the Candies and Hughes car.
Based out of Dallas, Texas, the Kilpatrick and Cannell team using the same chassis design as is Gary Beck. It's an Al Swindle car, but there's a different approach to the utilization of the fuel systems between these two cars.
Well, if anybody's going to figure out how Gary Beck does it, it'll be that team. They are staged and ready. Richard Thorpe in the 4-lane, Gary Beck in the near lane. We've got a race. Gary Beck breaks right on the starting line. Oh, good fortune for Richard Thorpe, as he did not have that good a run going. Richard Thorpe at 593, 228 miles an hour, and Gary Beck beats himself mechanically.
Very dejected. He sits in the car. This is the quickest top fuel dragster in the history of the sport. The crew and the officials coming to push it off the starting line. Obviously, something letting go in the drivetrain. As we watch again, Richard Thorpe in the far lane. They leave almost identically, but then the broken part puts Gary Beck out of competition, and Richard Thorpe with an easy run in round number 2 of the 16-car field. The day is over for Gary Beck, but the war has been won. He is the new Winston World Champion.
And we get word from the starting line that Gary Beck broke a transmission. Beck climbing out of the cockpit is all ready. The next race is on the starting line. We saw Ray Stutz, a young fireman from Pomona, making his burnout. Beck with the helmet off. But it's a little different situation, don't you think here, Dave? He's got that World Championship win, not quite as dejected as he might ordinarily be.
If he had not had that, I'm sure he would have been much more concerned about his going out of competition this early. Here is Ray Stutz, who said he is a fireman in Laverne, California. He is racing Joe Amato from Old Forge, Pennsylvania, one of the hottest new drivers on the circuit.
Won 3 events this year. What a contrast here. Both have state-of-the-art race cars, but Ray Stutz, this gentleman in the blue car, is a fireman who works 3 or 4 part-time jobs, saves every penny he can get his hands on to build this car, and has been performing very well, a 560 in round number 1. He has had a little help kind of under the table from Larry Miner and Gary Beck. They really like this young guy. Joe Amato moving in, Ray Stutz, second round, top fuel competition, the Winston World Finals. Ray Stutz moves first, but up in smoke. Possibly too much clutch, maybe too much gear, not enough tire, whatever. It is Joe Amato.
And Joe proves that he is in the thick of things with a 5:68 elapsed time at 239 miles an hour. And just overpowering the racetrack is Ray Stutz. The car leaves with the wheels in the air, and then the tires start to smoke. And that's all she wrote for Ray Stutz on this day.
They'll get up on those wheelie bars and kind of unload, as you know, Dave, and transfer the weight to the front end, and the tires go up in smoke. Anytime Gary Beck is out with mechanical problems, you can bet it's going to be a guy like Joe Amato that'll step up and suddenly become a crowd favorite to maybe even win this whole race.
As this crowd is sitting and waiting, coming up out of the staging lanes now are those fiberglass replicas of late model American and foreign cars known as the funny cars. They've got 2,500 horsepower engines in them, and the number one qualifier is taking on Al Segrini. Segrini driving the Fabergé Super Brute car. Hails from Easton, Massachusetts, and if you ever wanted to have a matchup of East versus West, I guess this is about as far as you could go, because Don Prudhomme hails from Granada Hills.
The four-time world champion, Don Prudhomme, we mentioned earlier, really struggled this year until all of a sudden he stepped up here to qualify number one at a 5:74. Now, Prudhomme holds the national record at a 5:63, the quickest elapsed time ever run. Al Segrini won the Cajun Nationals this year. The funny car titles were more evenly distributed than was Top Fuel. Quite a few different winners along the trail. But as we told you also, the Chi-Town Hustler is the new world champ, Frank Hawley, for the second year in a row. He is out. Now we're racing for the event title and some $20,000.
Don Prudhomme at the wheel of the Pepsi Challenger. Approaching those light beams, stretching across the racetrack, and look at Al Segrini with a hole shot.
Al Segrini, and suddenly Al Segrini has problems. The motor lets go, and Don Prudhomme, who was about to throw in the towel, I would imagine, comes up with the win at a 5:89, 240 miles an hour. Look at the hole shot for Segrini.
Boy, Segrini had this race sewed up. He was at least a car length ahead or more at the middle of the track. He starts to smoke a little bit. You can see the piston smoke indicating there are some problems, and the problems gave the win to Don Prudhomme.
Don Prudhomme and Al Segrini discussing reaction times. Segrini's the better of the two. In fact, an outstanding reaction time for Al Segrini.
Our next pair, John Brute Force, and he has been having quite a season. His crew chief, Larry Frazier, has made all the difference in the world for Force. He is gaining confidence in his driving abilities. He has made it to the final round several times this season, has yet to win an NHRA national event. But John Force sitting patiently as the crew completes the work on that 2,500 horsepower nitro-burning engine. The fiberglass body comes down. His competition, Sherm Gunn, already doing his burnout. And John Force rolls through the water, and next you'll see the tires smoking.
John Force has consistently had the best reactions, Dave, all season long of any of the funny car drivers. An occasional red light in there to mar that, but if you're not pushing the light, you don't red light once in a while, maybe you're not on time. John Force.
Sherm Gunn, a chassis builder by trade, built this car specifically for this event. A brand new race car for Sherm Gunn. He qualified well and won his first round race, which probably marked his first ever win in national event competition. The burnouts are over, the engine's running up the par, and now it falls on the drivers.
John Force told me recently, Dave, that he's figured out who his enemy is. It's not the other car, it's not the racetrack, it's the Christmas tree. That is the enemy, Force says.
John Force concentrating on that Christmas tree. For Sherm Gunn, he's doing exactly the same thing in the far lane of the track. And John Force with the hole shot. And he pulls ahead to defeat Sherm Gunn by a little over a car length, a 598 to a 604. And John Force, as we watch it replay, takes home the win.
John Force was 0.03 of a second quicker to react. Here he loses traction, and that's got to be a sinking feeling for the driver. They can feel that happen, and if it gets any worse, he is going to be beat by a guy like Sherm Gunn. But Force gets the smoke dried up, backpedaled the car nicely, has really matured as a race car driver.
So John Force getting out of the car in the shutdown area and going back to the pits for another good hour to hour and a half's worth of work for about 5, almost 6 seconds of time out on the racetrack.
A very intense young man, takes the sport so seriously.
Our next pair of cars, this is a man that also takes it very seriously, but he does it in his own style, in his own method. Little John Lombardo, he hails from North Hollywood, California, and you can tell by the absence of all the sponsors' names on it, he wants Little John to get the recognition, and that's what Little John gets.
Billy Meyer, a full-time pro who first made an impact on this sport right here at Orange County International Raceway when he was only 18 years of age, winning the famous Manufacturers Championship funny car title for 7-Eleven stores, Chief Auto Parts, the Southland Corporation. A good look at the Christmas tree starting system, the top yellow lights of the pre-stage. When all 4 top yellow lights are on, we get the pro start, 4/10 of a second between amber and green. Billy Meyer with the wheels in the air. Little John Lombardo, Little John goes farther in national event competition than I can ever recall.
Steve, he ran 5.93 seconds to go into the semifinals, defeating a 5.99 by Billy Meyer in the 7-Eleven Chief Auto Parts Special. And for Little John, this is somewhat unusual. Our next pair already fired, doing the burnout on the far side of the track is Denny Savage, and here comes the 3-time Winston World Champion, the Schlitz Blue Max of Raymond Beadle.
Well, a lot of people were a little worried about Raymond Beadle this year because he has branched out into other forms of motor racing. Sammy Swindell on the Worlds of Outlaw Sprint Car Circuit, a NASCAR car. Denny Savage, who has been out of drag racing 2 years, only hired last weekend to drive this custom-bodied car, and to qualify here under those circumstances, quite a triumph for Denny Savage, a real veteran of this sport.
Savage defeated Gary Densham in round number 1 to place him up against Raymond Beadle. Beadle qualified number 4 with an outstanding 581. And so the Schlitz Blue Max out of Dallas, Texas, is striving to move into the semifinals. But Denny Savage is not to be forgotten in this race.
Oh, he certainly is not. Ron Swearingen, the young man, only 23 in the red shirt there. Kind of listen to that motor to make sure it's got enough heat in it or respond to Savage's touch on the throttle. Raymond Beadle, the Spring Nationals champion this year, the Schlitz Blue Max. Beadle, no better driver, no calmer driver, certainly. Ice water for blood. Denny Savage, an excitable type sometimes. They get away pretty close together.
Savage had the whole shot by 100th of a second, and look at him hold on, and in fact he pulls away at the finish line. You talk about upsets. Denny Savage just laid away the Schlitz Blue Max. As we watch again, you see the very slight advantage off the starting line. It couples up with a 5.93 elapsed time. Beadle actually has a lead at this point by about a half a car length. But look at Denny Savage, his speed 242 miles an hour as he crosses the finish line at the end of the quarter mile, 1,320 feet away from the starting line. Raymond Beadle takes off his helmet and fire sock.
Denny Savage, a long-time professional driver in this sport who just took over the reins of this race car, and you find yourself in the semis. You've really struggled in qualifying. Did your wildest dreams for you to get this far?
No, I really did. But, you know, we're there, so what can I say?
Okay, good luck with this car.
So the crew coming to congratulate Denny Savage driving Fred Castronova's car. Raymond Beadle out of competition as we will be moving shortly to the semifinals of Funny Car Eliminator, where John Force will be running Don Prudhomme and Little John Lombardo will run Denny Savage. Earlier in funny car qualifying, we had one of the most spectacular engine explosions ever in drag racing history as Mike Dunn at the wheel of Roland Leong's Hawaiian Run Special approached the finish line, and then it let go.
It's with great pleasure I stand next to a hale and apparently healthy Mike Dunn. You okay?
Oh yeah, I'm all right. Just got a sprained left index finger and my knee's a little sore, but other than that, I'm fine.
You had no warning at all.
No, the car was running real well. We had changed, actually we changed the piston. We went tire compression. We were just trying things, and it left real lazy, and then half track it really started to make a charge, so I thought I'd run her down there and see what it'd run. And I laid down just for an instant and then blew up. I didn't really have time to react, and it immediately put oil on my visor, and I couldn't see, and I just reacted to the way the car went.
You appeared to be trying to drive it until it rolled.
Well, actually, what had happened is I was worried about getting into Al Segrini's lane, the guy, person we were racing, and that was my main concern at first. And so, being that I couldn't see, I was just reacting. I was actually probably overcorrecting for the way the car moved, just so that I didn't want to get into his lane. And evidently, what had happened is the motor went over on top of the fuel tank and then went off the side of the tire, and that's what rolled me. I thought I'd went off the side of the track and hit something, and that's what rolled me, because it wasn't really that far out of control at that time.
And on the first roll, the roll bar hit as hard as it possibly could have.
Oh yeah, it definitely hit hard. Luckily, nobody home up there, so it didn't hurt me up there any.
It says an awful lot for the men that make the rules.
Oh yeah, definitely. I'm living proof how safe these things are. You know, just take a look at all my reruns, right? And you can't say enough about the safety features of the car, the roll cage, full roll cage, and everything else. Any type car, something like that, crash like that, the driver would be lucky to walk away with it. And I've done it, twice, so they're definitely safe.
So we'll see Mike Dunn next season?
Oh, definitely.
Not only a tribute to the rules makers, but also a tribute to the men who drive those 250-mile-an-hour funny cars. One of the most popular of all drag racing categories is Pro Stock, the factory hot rods.
And this is the semifinals. In the near lane, the famed Grumpy's Toy, a Bill Grumpy Jenkins from Pennsylvania with Joe Lapone driving. Lapone, an athletic, tall, good-looking young guy who announced today he is retiring from this car. No further news on his plans for the future. Lee Shepard, the world champion.